So this is the garden update for the 25th of April. It's Anzac Day in Australia. I'm doing it today basically because we've had some roadworks down the street, but because it's a day off for them today, there's less noise. So let's have a bit of a look at the garden. So I'm pretty sure that's the hebe, which is doing quite well. Aquilegia, can't remember, but I have actually gone around the garden with a little plant identification app to try and remind me of what I've got. So I just paused there, there's a car coming down, it's a bit noisy. So hopefully that's identified the plants around here reasonably accurately. It ended up being over 40 odd different plants. So there are a number of repeat plants, obviously, like the Aquilegia, although they tend to have different looking flowers. They still had a bit of variety. I'll put up the list of plants that I've got here. I guess you can match them to things, but I did a little diagram. I'll see if I can put that up and we can have a look. It's a little bit of colour, even though we're going into kind of the colder months. I do quite like this one here. It's quite lovely. Gives a bit of height and colour and shape. The lavender just behind it. The old sweet alyssum giving a bit of ground cover there. The carnation, I think, the dianthus, I believe it's basically the same sort of thing. More Aquilegia. Don't remember, I have to look at the picture. But this is the newer part. I can't remember if this was in the last catch-up or not. But I went to our local nursery, so an actual nursery, not a big box place. I got this one to a local, Westringia, and also a Winter Rouge. So the idea is that these are going to be the hedge, because the actual hedging plants have kind of not done much. I'll do a bit of a wide view to get to the other side. These little side ones have mostly sort of died off. Obviously the sunflowers have gone. I'll pause again. There we go. Bit of height and colour here, which is nice. And the other side. So we'll do a quick walk along the front because things are looking a bit drab here. Hopefully not dead. Hopefully these are just the winter foliage. They're the viburnum opulans. And we get to the over here. And again, I've done a little bit of trimming and things like that. Obviously not a lot of tidying, but trimming things down. So the Aquilegia there is looking a bit worse for wear. Different coloured alyssum, which is quite nice. A little bit of pinky purple. That is the, I believe, Lilium Forza Red. And I'm not sure if I should cut it back or leave it. I'll probably leave it, because if nothing else, it'll be a bit of plant matter for bugs to hold on, hide on, live on, whatever. Got the Nepeta, Persian blue, little bits of blue still in it, but mostly sort of going to the more wintry colours. Remains of some Nigella, that'll probably reseed. It tends to, a bunch of these little bits here, the little plants coming in, I'm not sure if those are just weeds, which they could well be, or if they're actually some seeds that I scattered, because I have a tendency to just wildly scatter some seeds if I've used them for something else. Like if I put some into pots, and if I have some left over, sometimes I'll just scatter them. They're probably weeds. I'll let them keep growing for a bit, and I can always pull them out when they're a bit bigger. I can actually see what looks like some Nigella there. Oh, there we go. So there'll obviously be some more Nigella coming in. Some more of the carnations doing nicely, a bit of colour. The hollyhock is probably just about done now. That's fine. Noisy motorcyclists, we'll try and ignore them. I've got Brunonilla, I guess. The blue trumpets. These I hadn't noticed before, so they might, I'll have to keep track of those. There's one thing I definitely don't want is for ivy to take hold. That could be what that is, I'm not sure. The dahlias, depending on where you're from, doing alright. They're doing their little last bit. So these are ones that were from a seed pack, obviously the smaller variety, but that's their second year of growing in that spot, so that's alright. They've left over winter. Another Nepeta, self-seeded potato from compost, that's fine. And this little one is not doing super well. Cyclamen there, or cyclamen. This is the experimental portion, which is why it's got all this stuff on it. Again, excuse the motorbike. The idea is that that's going to compost down and make that soil a bit better. So again, more hollyhock, lupin, which is, it's actually gone to seed and dropped the seed now, because I was going to grab some. Actually, there's there you go. I think there's one in there which I might be able to, actually it might not be, but anyway, so that's alright, that can come back again later. And more Aquilegia filling out the area. Can't remember what the one in there, oh yes I can, snapdragons. So some of them are there, but the ones at the back are obviously growing a bit more. That's the, I think it's called odorata. Lots more alyssum. There's some of the lobelia blue eyes there, but the alyssam's taken over here, which is quite nice. It's filling it out. A couple of new plants put in there. That's another cyclamen, obviously, or cyclamen. I'll just pause again. There we go. Let's have a quick look. There's Frankie, our cat. Little detour there. So the rose is doing alright. This one's the one that I bought specifically. This is a sentimental. It does actually have a nice scent to it. So that's doing alright there. Bunch of the gladioli, which again I'm not sure if I should cut back or just leave, so I'll default to leaving and let them go that way. The platycodon is looking a bit worse for wear. Sorry, I might have been a bit loud to move close to the phone. I'll leave it and let it sort of go. Sometimes things sort of look like they're dying off, but they're just going through one of their phases, so that's okay. The liliums here, obviously quite bold growth, but they've been in there for 2 years now, I think, so they're doing alright. And some other bits and pieces. I've cut back some of the Nigella, I think it was there. I'll just leave that as a bit of mulch. Now the new bit, the bird bath garden. So I've got the similar problem here, and that I did put some plants in here to give it a bit of colour, but then there's a lot of seeds in here as well. Actually, I'll have a bit of a look there. Yeah, I'm not sure that might actually be a sticky weed coming up, but again, I'll let them grow for a bit, and if they look like something that I don't want, I'll pull them out. Yeah, that one is definitely a sticky weed. You can see the little sort of star head on top of that, so I'll probably need to go through here and weed it properly at some point, but otherwise, actually it looks like we might have a bit of growth from the bits and pieces. Anyway, we'll go around the side now quickly. So, the little corner of our side garden here is doing quite nicely. Obviously, the front part here hasn't done quite so well, although this alyssum looks like it might actually come up again, so that's good. A few weeds in there that I'll have to pick out, but a nice bit of colour, so I like that. And I've just noticed there's indeed a sticky weed there. Fortunately, comes out nice and easily. And around the back we go. So I think last time we were looking here, it was mostly green. Well, now there's some green, but there's a lot of brown. So this is basically the butternut pumpkin or butternut squash that I had. I pulled all that out. I've got a lot of pumpkins out of it, or squash, depending on where you're from. But I basically did a kind of chop and drop, so that's pretty much the leaf material, because I figured there was a lot of it, and I might as well use it for composting. Now, the capsicum is actually still going, or bell pepper, I think is what you might refer to it as, or a sweet pepper, I think, possibly as well. So this one's actually more of a pointy shape. Normally they have the kind of the bell shape, but I actually plucked off some of the tops of these recently because I figured if they survive, they survive. If they don't, it's fine. I can get more growing next year. But that's actually come along quite nicely, so we'll see what happens. I've dropped some of our compost there because I've actually dismantled my compost bay for the moment. I'll show you that in a moment and give you a bit of an explanation as why. The grapevine has done very well, and there were, I'll see if I can see them from this side. Oh, yep. Actually, see, there are even some grapes growing on it. I don't know if they'll survive, but if they do, it'd be nice. If they don't, that's fine. So lots of self-seeded potatoes. Now I have also got some brassicas. I believe these were cauliflower, I think, that I've actually planted in here. There's another one over there. But I also have, I suspect, self-seeded, because I had one in here growing up here, and I let it go to seed. It didn't actually do too well because of timings and things like that, but I left it, and I think it produced a whole bunch of seed, and that's dropped here. So I've got a whole bunch of brassicas growing there, or cauliflower I think is what it was, so that's fine. My Cavolo Nero kale are doing quite well. I have the aubergine or eggplant. Let's probably leave that there to grow. There's another broccoli at the back there. I'll do the same as I did previously. I'll just leave that, and if I need the space I can take it, but otherwise it can be as it is. I've got some peas here. I think they're either snow pea or sugar snap pea. So I'll let those grow and we'll see what they end up as. I'm inclined to say that might be an avocado, but I'm not entirely sure. So we'll see. More self-sown potatoes, which is fine. More peas, which is also fine. Now these stakes here are because I made some rows along here. Let's just step out into the areas. Turn it around. So that's actually a lettuce. I actually had some lettuces that I sowed quite a bunch of them came up and they're doing well, so I've put some extra ones here to let them grow. Basically what we've got, I think it's garlic, carrot, onion, leek. So I've done it that way because the carrot should be a nice delineation between them, but also doing them in rows should help me figure out what crops I've got and where, and knowing the variety of allium should help me figure out what it is, when to crop it and things like that. So that's kind of the idea there. So I'll go back down this way, collect the weed on the way. Again, the no dig, well not again, but the no dig method certainly makes weeding easier, because even if you get the weeds, they do tend to come out pretty easily if you just pull them, and it's generally roots and all. So there we go. Okay, so let's go down to this area. I think that's an aquilegia that I planted. See, this is the issue with the alliums. Is it an onion? Probably not, because of the depth. Is it a garlic? It could be, because I did have a bunch here. Or is it a leek? Which it could be. But again, I'll just leave that growing. That's fine. There's no hassle with that. Now, here's a bit of an interesting one. This mass here is a cabbage plant. The first year it grew, I had two there. I think one basically failed, and the other one got a bit sort of bug damaged. As you can perhaps see there, it does tend to get a bit attacked, but I just left it here, and it looks like it's growing multiple heads of cabbage, which I guess it might, but I've not been aware of that being something they do. And you can also see here it appears to have dropped a number of seeds, because if I'm not mistaken, those are brassica leaves, certainly the first leaves, and then you've got the new ones coming in, but if you've if you've been doing gardening for a while, and I haven't been doing it for as long as many people, but I've been doing it for I think now 2 years, and that little sort of almost heart-shaped leaf makes me think it's a brassica, which would make sense because again this one was left to basically flower and things like that, but after flowering it seems to have come back and tried starting again. Now this is the area that I'm planning on putting basically big struts up so it can then sort of be an archway that goes over and can grow the grape and things up it. So at the moment it has the apricot tree and the peach tree that have both produced quite nice fruit. I'm going to dare to move them out just because where they are I think it's not the best spot. I mean, we've got our cable coming through here anyway, but then this will be converted to kind of like a raised bed. What that's meant is that I have currently dismantled my compost bay, which is why there's mess all over here. The idea was that I was going to get rid of these trees along the fence line for a couple of reasons. One is they're not fruiting, so they're not really producing anything for us to consume. But two, as you might be able to see, it's kind of growing into the fence and pushing it out. So I have to try and get that out, or at least try and kill it off. The plan is then to basically put fruit trees in here. I was originally going to move the peach tree around the front, but I had a report of the front yard and the soil there is a bit high for lead. So I'm wondering if it might actually be a better idea to perhaps put the fruit trees along here, have like a fence line orchard. So that might work. I'll still think about that. The raised bed that I moved from over that way still has the strawberries in it, and they are still surviving. This is the parent plant, as it were. There are two others that are now hidden by the self-sown potatoes. So again, this was using compost, my own compost, and so it's obviously been in there because we like our potatoes. Okay, I'll try not to fall over the mess. Now, I put some wood chip down, which I think I showed. Unfortunately, I was a bit hasty and I didn't put cardboard beneath it. So as a result, the weeds are basically just growing straight through that, and that's fine. That's fine. It still looks a bit nicer than the sandy sort of soil that was there, but next time I'll know to put some cardboard down. I'm actually even debating converting this to lawn anyway, because it has been basically a sandy park, because this is an extra gate area that would give access to the backyard, which we don't use. I did make sure these can actually fold out as well, but it might be nice just to put some lawn down there instead. But anyway, foxglove's growing nicely in the back there. The alyssum's gone wild effectively, which is fine. The hollyhock here is doing quite nicely. There's a little bit of carnation still doing right there. The pond is doing quite well. We've got one of the fish there having a bit of a swim about. They've certainly grown quite a lot. So we only lost one since getting them, which, as I said, I think was because of the storm that we had with the hail. I suspect it might have been hit by the hail because it was quite big and a nasty storm. But the other thing, as we've had, sorry about that knock, the water lily has actually produced flowers. They haven't completely opened. We've got one there, and there's another one over there. And I don't know if that's just because it's overcrowded, quite possibly, or there's some other reason, but it's getting flower points, so it's quite nice. This one has shot up. It did have nice purple flowers on it when it was in bloom. And again, the carnations there. I probably need to cut those back, but that's all right. Again, I suspect we've had an overabundance of weeds coming here, but we do also have some plants that I picked up from the local big box store where I got one of my vouchers. So there's a couple of things in here that I do actually want. And then I suspect a lot more Nigella self-seeded, which is fine. The raspberry canes, at some point I'll need to cut those back, but They've still got some green leaves on them, so I'll leave them for the moment. And again, ignore the mess, because that's how I garden, apparently. Into the greenhouse. Some of the butternut squash pumpkins that were grown. A decent sized one. That one's not getting the colour into it as well as the others, but these have actually come along quite nicely. They're all a bit pale to start with. Some of the alliums, so again, I'm not sure which of them they were. These could be onion, they're probably garlic. They could also be spring onions, actually, or leek, but because they had the flower heads, I thought, look, I'll bring them in here, they can dry, and then they may end up... Oh, that one's actually quite... Oops, sorry. That one's actually quite messy, but some of them have actually dried nicely to produce the little black seeds. Oops. Oh, that's actually quite a nice garlicky smell to it, or allium-y smell, not sure if it's garlic exactly, but there we go. Anyway, over to this side. Now, I'll just loosely put this on here. So I've got some Canterbury bells growing there, some cabbage that isn't growing there, little one on the side here. I think that's left over from the broccoli, I think. So I've got a little kiwi fruit there that's coming along okay. And then the other ones aren't really doing anything at the moment. That's all right. Just lightly put that there. So this is the lettuce that I was talking about. So I've pricked out a number of these. These ones are still as they were. This is where I've put them onto. Now, these are actually brassicas. The back row are the lettuce. The front ones are, I think, broccoli. No, they might actually be... Oh, they're either broccoli or cauliflower. Yes, I know, labelling, whatever. And we've got more of the lettuce here. This one's an eggplant. It survives or not, doesn't really matter. It's obviously had its season. This is not a dahlia. African dawn. I think I had some seeds from one of the flower heads I was trying to grow, but I don't think they'd dried quite enough. That actually looks more like it could be a tomato, but I'm not sure. I'll leave it keep growing. Doesn't matter. What we also have, though, is our new edition of Venus flytrap, which has been named Audrey. If you know, you know. We've had that for a few weeks now. We got that, again, one of the trips to our local hardware store with the voucher. I think it was about $16, $17, but I refer to it as our murder plant, but it's just sitting there, and hopefully that'll do well, and then maybe we'll try and divide it to grow on at some point. Now, we'll do a quick duck over here, because I think I killed my kiwi plant. So what happened was I am very firmly of the suspicion that I overwatered it, basically, and drowned it. When I tried to pot it on to try and put it into some drier soil, this part actually separated from the root core, and I thought, that's not a good sign. But I've left it in there. If it grows on, great. If not, it's a learning experience. And just quickly while we're here, these are some dahlia cuttings, just because I had them and I was doing some pruning. Now, the reason I'm not super worried about the kiwi fruit being killed off is because we have some growing here. Now, as you can see, this one's doing quite nicely. So you've got the true leaves there. Some little ones here. Again, true leaves starting to form. And these ones here. Now, the ones here are grown from ones that I had on paper towel. So I did the paper towel in the Ziploc bag trick. One of the Ziploc bags I didn't seal. I just sort of folded it over, and that sort of came out looking less mouldy, shall we say. The other one got a whole bunch of black patches on it and looked pretty nasty, but I left it there anyway, just in the suspicion that it might be okay. And it turned out it did indeed sprout some of them. So these ones are all sprouted from the mouldy looking paper towel. The only reason I say that is because if you're trying that technique and you look like you get some mould, don't worry, it may still be okay. I mean, at some point you probably need to give up on them, but these actually look like they've come out all right, and those are nicely separated, so they should be quite good to grow on. So here we have some others. So these are cauliflower. I do actually sometimes label. Celery looks like it's actually coming on, which is awesome. We may actually even have some rosemary, which would be good. This property actually did have a rosemary bush when we first moved in, but it was in the veggie patch and it was kind of taking things over. And at that point, I wasn't really into gardening too much, and so I took it out. Had I realised, I would have at least taken some cuttings to grow them on. But I'll get those going, and I'll probably use those as a bit more hedging in the front yard eventually. My broccoli, which I have potted on, looks like it's coming on very nicely. I'm quite happy with those. So it looks like it's a bit dry there, but I suspect just under there is wet or damp. And that's part of the problem. We've had some very dry weather, except for the last week or two, it has shifted to more of the wintry weather. So it has been a case of the water retains, well, the plants retain moisture for a lot longer. And I think that's what kind of threw me off with the kiwi plant. Having said that, as I said, it's a learning experience. It's fine. So in here we have the jungle section, which I kind of like. It's just a bit of everything. This one here, I think, was given to me by our eldest. Now, the reason I say that is it's not because I'm not sure that he gave it to me. What happened was he was at work, and one of his workmates recognised that he came from this house, and they'd seen the front yard, and I thought, oh, it's interesting gardening. Now, they handed him a bag of things. He referred to it as compost. However, they looked like alliums, or at least bulbs. But I thought, okay, let's call it compost. I'll put it in the compost. And I did. But then some of the ones actually came out when I was putting compost on gardens and things like that. So I thought, hang on, maybe I should just put one of those in a place where it can grow. I think that's what this is. Either that or it's one of the ones that I got from the store and I had some extra, but that's not likely with the bulbs because they cost a lot, so I tend to put them in the garden. So I think this is one of the ones that he brought back. And I'm curious to see what it ends up as. It's quite nice looking there. Whatever it is, we'll find out. So again, I've got more cuttings of dahlias there. So this is the Cafe au lait and the African Dawn, I think is what the other one was. Here we've got tomatoes growing because, yeah, why not? Those are, I think, self-seeded in the pot there, which has what I believe is a passion fruit vine. The indoor, as it were, capsicum plant here also has another one still growing there. They've been very thin-skinned and not the best tasting, but I think it might be to do with not giving it a nice boost of fertiliser. Well, not fertiliser, but as in compost and things. Down here we have, I'd have to say those are the bells of Ireland because they're green flowers and they look a little bit like bells. So that's one of the cases where sometimes if I've got a pack of seeds and I've got, as well as scattering randomly on gardens, I'll often, plug trays and things, I like to put one in here at least as well. So they have the outside ones, but then also one in here to see how that goes. That's why we've got the alyssum in here. It makes a nice bit of extra colour and things, and a nice smell sometimes too. So we've got the in-ground pineapple there, and the potted pineapple still doing quite well. And this is a broccoli, I think either broccoli or cauliflower, that I decided to pot on here. So that's doing its own little thing. And now we'll go to the back of the backyard. Again, as always, excuse the mess. Don't look, don't look, don't look, don't look, don't look, don't look, don't look. And possibly still don't look. We'll go the opposite way this time. So the top end, have a little Johnny jump up coming up there, which is good. It's be nice to have more of those. The cyclamen, I think there. And, yeah, hold on. So my son was asking me something there. So again, more weeds that need to come out, but that's fine. I haven't done the check to see what these are. Yep, they produce a nice little bit of colour to add to the garden. That's most likely a nectarine. So this is the, I think, African Dawn is what that one's called. I've got the Hebe there. And self-sown potatoes. Salvia Misty was added there. My orange tree, self-grown. The Cafe au lait, putting on probably its last flush. The lovely big growth of that apple tree from seed versus the smaller one that started about the same size, but there you go. Adenifora gaudy violet. There we go. Now if you'll excuse the weed growth, I need to still do better at converting this area things, but one of the pumpkin vines I put down here, and another one that is producing. So it's just a back area that I keep forgetting I have, and I figure I might as well put it to good use. As you can see, it gets very overgrown very quickly despite having pallets and things there. Anyway, that's the garden update, April 25th, 2024. Thanks for watching and happy growing.